dare to have moxie for what matters. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Julia, and we're your new loudmouth, change-making, do-gooder best friends here to embolden you to take more action, risk, and heart towards creating more just, equitable, and brave world.
We are interviewing today Camille Proctor from the Color of Autism Foundation. She is the founder and executive director, and she's been kind enough to join us today to tell us all about the Color of Autism Foundation and their mission. Their mission is they are committed to serving people of color who are affected by autism spectrum disorders. They are devoted to empowering families and lessening their isolation. And their goal is to build efficacy and end the stigma of autism spectrum disorders in communities of color. So welcome, Camille. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, we're so excited to have you here, Camille. And so my first question for you is, what do you want people to know about the Color of Autism, your organization?
Sure. Well, the Color of Autism, we support families in underserved communities. And usually those communities, within those communities, they include people of color, people of various ethnicities. And what I want everyone to know is why this support is so vital, because these communities are grossly underserved, and these children are typically diagnosed up to 4 years later than their white peers. So this is why we do what we do.
So what was the motivation behind starting this organization for you?
Well, my motivation was my son, Ari, who just turned 15 on April 1st. When Ari was 2 years old, he was diagnosed with autism. And it was something that I knew he had, but it took me a long time to get him diagnosed. I felt like it was forever, but really he was kind of on schedule in regards to his diagnosis. So I knew what it was, but I had to convince other people what it was, because he didn't have what we call the telltale signs, the things that, they give you a list of things. They don't look at people, they don't do this, they don't do that. Well, he looked at people. He liked women. He didn't like men, but he would cuddle with a woman in a heartbeat. So everyone kept saying, oh, he's so sweet, he's so nice. But he didn't, he was obsessed with fans. It was a lot of things. So after his diagnosis, I started looking for my circle of support. And there wasn't a circle of support for me. I would go to support groups where I'd be the only person of color, and I would talk about some really serious things about having that conversation with your family. In families of different diasporas, the issue is a denial, because we're not familiar with some things because there's been a lack of information. So when you come to your family members and you start talking about disorders or developmental disorders, and you say something like autism, they go, oh, white people have that. We didn't have that. That's what white people have. And it's like, no, we've had autism since the age of time. It affects everyone. So that's a problem. Then I would go to the support groups, and I would just be the only person of color there. And I would ask questions again. What do you do when your son's about 12 years old and he's, 5 foot, whatever, and he is stopped by the police? If he doesn't know how to yield or understand how to be compliant, he'll get hurt. And they're like, no, the police will know that they're our friends. They'll know that there's something wrong with him. And I'm like, that's not how it works in my community. Like,
exactly.
That's just not how it works. And I mean, when you look at current events, like even just recent as a few days ago, that's just not how it works, So after I asked a number of those questions, I was deemed a Debbie Downer and asked out not to come back, because
they asked you to not come back.
Right. So it was a guy. Yeah. Because I wasn't like, I was just, So
I would have been as exasperated as you, and I'm
it was
so
funny.
glad that you started it.
I was laughing because it was funny to me, because it was like, oh, you're keeping everybody down, and your son really isn't that severe. He'll probably be mainstream. All because my son would sit there and watch this video of Elmo, and he would count on his fingers. He would mouth the count, but he wasn't talking. the words weren't coming out. So he was
Oh.
like, and they're like, oh, he recognizes what Elmo's doing. He can count. So they just, yeah, it was nuts. So
They weren't recognizing the unique situation of people of color in autism, and they were comparing their child with him. And it's just so interesting. There's so much misinformation about autism. And right, like, so most people, including me, like, my understanding of autism for a long time was based on movies, like nonverbal autistic people. And so having, Autism Month, and like why it's so important to really spread awareness. And I'm really excited about talking about people of color and autism, because like you just said, like, it really struck with me when you just said about what happens when a police pulls over my son, right? What if the general understanding for most people is that that's a white people disorder, right? That's scary. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
So that led to you needed to do something, right? So tell us about that.
So, I knew that I had to do something, and I talked to a really good friend of mine. And my friend is, first generation, I guess the first generation of children born here, Italian. And so she said to me, I said, well, should I feel bad about having an organization for African Americans? I didn't feel bad, so I don't want to word it that way, but do you think there'll be a lot of opposition? And she said to me, well, look, you can't tell me how to make gravy, and I can't tell you how to be Black. And I go, oh, all right. So
Exactly.
and for those listening, for most Italians, gravy is pasta sauce, right?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, it is.
That's what it is. It's pasta sauce. And
Yeah.
so if you can't tell, and my friend, I can't do her voice, but I swear she sounds like Tony Soprano. But
my husband's from Jersey, so I learned what that they call it gravy, and I was just
right. So that's what I did. I set out not really being fully equipped with the things that I even needed for my son, but I knew that this was what I had to do. So I started the organization, and primarily we did like support groups, and we were able to point people to various resources. And, honestly, as Ari has gotten older, my organization has kind of pivoted. And I've learned a lot from the autistic community. I think that I've learned more from the autistic community than I actually learned from any publication or any information that's out there, because these young people and adults have sort of shown me that what I thought I knew, I didn't know. And so there's a lot, like, people with autism have a lot of capabilities. And so that's first and foremost. The second thing is that there are individuals on the spectrum that are severe, and their families need support. We need to be able to uplift those families so that they can better support their person on the spectrum. So now we try to build efficacy in people. And I say this because children lead from our behavior, right? So if we don't think it's okay, they don't think it's okay. If we don't think they're the best people in the world, they're not going to think they're good people. And the last thing we want to continue to do is push out a cycle of broken people. And that's on the spectrum or off the spectrum. We have to be really mindful about how we parent and the struggles. And I think that that's more so important when you have a child on the spectrum, because there's things that they're going to be able to do, and there's things they're not going to be able to do. A lot of parents are really stuck in this world of, oh, he's intelligent. He knows how to do 9,000 times 100,000 a zillion, and he can tell you that. And they love to tell you that their child is high functioning. But what they don't realize is that that high functioning child actually needs more support, because the world expects so much of them.
Yeah.
And they're not often able to give back what the world wants from them. And sometimes that leads to depression and anxiety, because we've just piled all this crap on them because they're high functioning. And I
Yeah.
want people to be really mindful of that, and that they need to take into consideration that when you meet an individual on the spectrum, you really need to meet them where they are, and you need to ask them what they need from you, how you can be a better support system, how you could be a better friend. And sometimes if you're a parent, you got to ask them, how can I be a better parent to you? You know,
Yeah.
I've asked Ari that and he said, give me more Skittles. But the point is, sometimes we have to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. That is all excellent advice. I think that I think I'm more aware of autism as I get a little bit older, and I'm really happy to see the strides that awareness is making. And I know that it's because of people like you. We really want to be able to share some of your lessons with our nonprofit listeners. So I was going to ask you, what has been the biggest challenge that your organization has had to overcome?
Being a nonprofit that supports families in underserved communities.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes people just actually take it the wrong way. They don't really have an understanding that every person, no matter where you know, everyone is different, right? Every community is different. Just like you said, your husband, Italians call pasta sauce gravy. There's nuances in all of us, right?
Yes.
And so that's important. And because of this, it was very difficult for us to have funding to keep contributions coming in, because people would say, oh, there's another organization for that. And the problem is that with the world's largest autism organization, that money did not trickle down into these communities. Even
Yeah.
though they did ad campaigns and put people of color in the campaigns, they weren't actively in these communities doing anything. So that was a thing. And I think that once there's been this huge backlash of just things going on, people really started to peel the banana and realize, oh, wait a minute, you get millions and millions of dollars and only this much money goes towards autism support services. And
Yeah.
so now things are kind of coming to fruition for us. For example, we do a 6-week parent training program, and we've done it for a long time. Our programming is free to families. We
Yep.
don't charge them anything. But what we do is we ask a commitment. If you sign up for that class, we want you there for the whole 6 weeks. Saturday from 11 to 1, you're sitting there with us. You're going to meet facilitators that look like you, because what we do is we invite speech and language pathologists that are African American or Latinx. They come in and they talk about what they do. So then the families are a little more familiar with these practitioners, and they're a little more open about what their struggles are. So we're better able to help them overcome everything.
Yeah.
Not everything, but a lot of things. And they leave after the 6 weeks empowered. And that's what our goal is. We want to make sure that we're empowering them. And then we move to their young adults in their home. If they need to experience like social groups, we have those. We have a new group coming up next month, which is a 1-to-1 group where we're going to take young adults and teens and law enforcement, and we're putting them in a group together. It's not police training.
Yeah.
Because police, they've been trained, they just aren't following protocols.
Yeah.
And they're also not crisis intervention. So those are two different things. But what we're doing with our group is that we're organically forging friendships, meaning we're putting the law enforcement in a group with children or young people. Let me say young people. Yep. And so they're becoming familiar with the characteristics of these young people, and these young people are becoming familiar with them. So that way, when the cop is out on his beat, if that's what they still call it, he sees a kid that may be acting peculiar, he won't jump to the conclusion that, oh, that kid's up to no good. He could say, oh, that's that girl, Jennifer, that was in that class with us. Oh, yeah, she flapped like that. Or, there's that kid. Well, I'll use my son, for example. There's that kid, Ari, and he likes to read license plates.
Yeah.
That they won't jump to the conclusion, oh, Ari's trying to rob a car. Oh, he's looking at his license plate, or maybe he's just checking something out. you know?
That's excellent. Working on that recognition and familiarity, because, like you said, they're not trained crisis intervention, and so to be able to offer them a little more familiarity with characteristics of people who struggle with autism spectrum disorders, I think is absolutely necessary. Is that are the parenting classes and these groups with the police the biggest way that you're kind of trying to overcome the challenge of
Yeah, it is because, knowledge is power. And
yeah,
unfortunately, in the United States, there's service deserts. So you have places like New York, New Jersey, California. They have a lot of services
yeah,
for families. But then you have places like South Carolina that don't have the amount of services that someone would have in New York, and they don't have the same amount of support. You also have places like Florida that has a long wait list for services. So there's so many obstacles for people, period, of color or not, to get access to these services. So our goal is, what do you do while you wait? Most people go, well, if you have the skills, you can work on these things in your home.
yeah. And the support groups and the parenting classes, I imagine, really help address that. And that's really powerful, to be able to give parents actionable things that they can do while they're waiting for these other services that, may or may not be at the end of a long wait list.
Right. And if they don't come, at least we're constantly re-upping our curricula where we can take you on the next level and the next level and the next level. Like, we don't have a curriculum for young adults yet. So what we do is we have a partnership with a outside, oh God, Thrive, a company called Thrive,
Mhm.
and they're in Rhode Island. And so what we do is, like, if you're someone who's on the spectrum and you say, I have a job and I'm trying to work on my social skills, I'm having some problems, what we'll do is we'll reach out to them and we'll say, are you having a social skills class for someone? In their classes are specific. Like, sometimes they talk about sexuality and things like that, dating.
Yeah.
And that's not our thing right now, because it's just, it's not. So
Right.
rather
Can't
than
do
trying,
everything. Yeah, you can't do
well,
everything, right?
we will, but we're just not there yet. And
Yep.
so I don't want someone to wait while I'm trying to figure that out. So we refer them over there. We pay for them to attend those classes, and that's that. So
Great.
that's what we've been doing. And so contributions that come to us, they help us make everything for free.
Yeah.
Um, because we have to pay our facilitators to come in and talk. We think that's very important, and then we have to pay the people that the agencies that we refer our families to for their services.
So
Excellent.
are you working with the police? You mentioned maybe spreading more, or are you working in that capacity by just public education, or what are you doing to work on the relationship between the police and autism and the
That's a hard one, and I'm going to explain why. A few years ago, we trained the Detroit police, and it's I realized through that training is that police training isn't a lunch and learn, okay?
Yeah.
And and it's not to knock. Well, I am knocking someone's hustle, but a young lady has, she trains and she has a video, and right after the George Floyd and all of the unrest last year, she sends me an email and she's like, "Oh, I've updated our training," and like it was like time, like winner chicken dinner. And so she was training, and it's like, your training's not really going to help. And then I was kind of insulted because she's not a person of color, and she's like, well, I'm going to go in these communities, and I'm like,
Yeah.
no, that's not, no.
If you want to help and you want to be an ally, you should really be boosting the voices of the people in those communities so that
Right.
they can come in and talk about that experience and really help to contribute to things that will help bridge,
Absolutely,
communities.
because culturally competent training is really what the police need, but they
Yes.
need a lot of it, right?
Yep.
And it's just my theory that if they can't name a person, they won't yield when it comes to
Yeah.
shooting someone. And I
Right.
hate to be that way. But if they can't see the kid Daniel that was in that virtual class with him, who talked about airplanes and trains all the time, or whatever the case may be, if they can't see that kid who actually sat in a physical class with them when we go back to in person, it's not going to help them. Because let's
Yeah.
face it, law enforcement, they have families to go back to as well, right? So they don't have a lot of time to be trying to figure out stuff,
Yeah.
because every day their lives are in danger. So I don't want to minimize that. But I also want to say that there's a number of officers, more than I'd like to see, that aren't necessarily doing, or maybe it's just the ones that I see in the media, probably the ones that doing what I think they should be doing, period. But I think that they should be given the opportunity to forge these friendships and get a better understanding. And there's better ways to support both. There's better ways to support the police. There's better ways to support the persons on the spectrum. And so
Absolutely.
that's what our goal is. We are recruiting, like we send out flyers to different law enforcement agencies, and we say, hey, would you be interested in joining us? And that's actually the best we can do at this point, because it's become a way of income for a lot of people. So a lot of people are charging for these trainings,
Yeah.
and it's, yeah. I'm like, yeah.
I really like your approach though. I feel like it's really innovative, and representation is important. And I think having that personal connection with somebody, and you've sat in a class and you've had some time to get to know somebody, I think that is absolutely going to make all the difference for some of these officers. So I really think that you're doing an excellent job to help bridge those gaps.
I hope so.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's see, I think Julia had one more question for you.
Yeah, we were wondering, like, what advice would you give someone who is thinking about starting a nonprofit? There's a need that they really see that's really important. What advice would you give that person?
Well, I guess see what's already out there, right? And see if you could, and I hate telling people that, but there are a lot of nonprofits. And
Yeah.
sometimes you get lost in the minutia. But if you find a nonprofit that's already in existence and you can help them, and you could still be your own nonprofit, but you could partner with them, I think together you're stronger, and together
Yeah.
you get noticed a lot quicker.
Absolutely.
Michelle and I talk regularly about how we're really surprised at like how many nonprofits don't collaborate
We're having a little bit of breakup with you,
with
Julia.
one another, because oh, darn it.
You were frozen, but that's okay. How
Am
many
I-
nonprofits don't collaborate? And it's true, a lot don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We really
surprised by
advocate.
that.
Yeah, we try and advocate to them to really, join forces. And I think, like you said, if somebody is starting out, go see if there's someone who's doing what you want to do, or if they're doing something that's so similar, maybe you can join them and add your extra side dish to what they're doing on by working with them. You can help them develop that other avenue if that's something that they're wanting to work toward anyway. Definitely, we advocate that as well. So yes, great advice.
Well, here in Detroit, there's a nonprofit that you may even want to reach out to. It's called Brilliant Detroit. And Brilliant Detroit, what they did was, a lot of people, it's funny, I live in the Motor City, but a lot of people don't have cars, and we don't have public transportation. Not really. So instead of making things difficult for people to get to, what Brilliant Detroit did was they bought a lot of property in pockets of neighborhoods so that everyone has a place to go to.
Yeah.
And get support and services. And because they have all of these multiple locations, it makes it easier for someone like me to say, hey, can I come over to location 1, location 2, and facilitate a talk or a training. Of course, I'm not able to do that right now,
Right.
but that's one example of me having partners in my community that I can do things with. And I think that's really, really important.
That's
Right
excellent.
now, we're looking for partners to help us. We want to do a bike. So we want to do a bike camp, but unfortunately, the bike camp that we want to do can only do it inside. Like,
Okay.
it has to be like in a school or a gym. So we're trying to work out the kinks of that, because a lot of kids on the spectrum don't know how to ride bikes. So
Oh,
partnership,
okay.
yeah, no, it's a thing. Like a lot of my son still doesn't know how to tie a shoe or ride a
Oh,
bike. It's the crisscross applesauce. No. No.
my son does not have autism, and he had trouble with that until he was like 12. I mean, we really struggled with that. I think it's funny because people think that these things are, kind of a given, and you should know them at a certain age, and it's interesting how certain kids will just like not be able to do what everybody sees as the simple thing. And it's like you said before, you got to parent every child the way that they need to be parented. And I didn't actually know that kids with autism have trouble learning to ride bikes. Is it just kind of
Well, it's a cognitive thing. Now, not all
okay,
of them. Some pick it up like,
right?
some kids are, they pick up on everything. It just doesn't matter what it is. But that's just the thing. You'll have a kid that can do calculus and can't tie a shoe.
Right.
And then the one that's riding a bike can't do calculus. It's parenting, There's a lot of adults that don't know
Absolutely.
how to bike ride, so I can't really put that on the autistic community. But what we are trying to do is give them the opportunity to learn how to ride the way that they learn.
Absolutely. Yeah, because if you can format it in the way that will help them learn. I mean, it's similar to the dyslexics, using the special fonts that help them actually pick up on the letter orders and stuff. I think that it is so important to be able to meet people where they're at. So that's
And
excellent.
and that's the takeaway really for everything for me, is that we have to be able to meet the autistic community where they are. And I think that for too long, parents were focused on mourning the child they thought they had or they were going to have, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And I
Hmm.
hate to sound like Cher and Moonstruck, but get over it.
Yeah, because
You
there
know,
there are so many levels there to be able to dig through to be able to help your child. And I'm really glad that you offer the support groups for parents, because I feel like that's really important, to be able to go to a support group like you did, but actually have somebody who is experiencing the similar things that you are, the community kind of rejecting the idea that the diagnosis is even real, and
Hmm.
and mourning the child that you thought you were going to have. I can't say enough about what you're doing. I think it's absolutely excellent.
well, thank you. I appreciate it because I do what I can. It's just that, again, going through doing this for so many years, it just became really, really apparent, that the community itself is really what needs to be considered. And we as parents have to figure out, we have to engage the autistic community in order for us to become better parents of autistic youth.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. But once I was able to focus less on myself and kind of let Ari do all the little quirky little whatever things he does, and he does a host of them, and some of it's autism, and some of it is just being a teen, and some of it is just
Yeah.
because he's a hot mess. But being able to say without guilt, my son is a hot mess, and it has nothing to do with autism.
Yeah, mine too. Mine's 14.
It is what it is, and I enjoy him more. We enjoy each other, and that's what parenting is about. Sometimes
Yeah.
you'll enjoy stuff with them, and sometimes you just won't.
Yeah.
What do you want for your organization in the next 5 years? What dreams would you like to see realized in just the next 5 years for
Well, in the next 5 years,
Colorado?
I would really, really like to be able to provide therapeutic services. I think that that's really important. But therapeutic services in places where there aren't therapeutic services. But I'm hopeful that at some point legislation will be passed just broadly so to better support families.
Yeah.
You know, because again, we want to have as many people out there as possible thriving, and we shouldn't have to worry about. I mean, worrying about your children is just part of being a parent, right? But then worrying about your child who's on the spectrum has never experienced or had the support that he or she needed, that's that's scary. That's very scary, you know? And I don't want people lying awake at night because they're worried about their child.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as a parent of someone who is, not neurotypical, I think it's just going to be more difficult, and anything that can be done to alleviate some of that stress so that people can be more prosperous and have the energy to continue to push forward. Because I know
Absolutely.
it can be such a grind, and like you said, especially in these places where there are service deserts, and there's just nothing available for some people, and it's really sad to see in a country that has so much prosperity, that we don't have more basic service levels across the entire
Yeah, we
country.
don't. Yeah. And it means a lot.
So that is really your big goal for the next 5 years. That's wonderful. Is the parenting classes kind of building into that, making some of these connections with some of the facilitators? And
Well, we are, so we use them as our referrers. So if we have a situation again where you're not able to get services or you don't have a waiver to cover the services, we do have some service providers, depending on what your need is, that we um I don't want to say farm out, but we do refer them to.
yeah,
The biggest thing though is following through. We want our parents to follow through. So we work with them before we even go through that whole process. We work on them with understanding and maintaining um, the schedules of the
yeah,
therapy, because that's
Mhm.
another thing that
I thought that was really interesting how you utilize like accountability. Like when they sign up for the parenting classes, they need to make a dedication to completing the entire thing, and how that's really important to keep accountability, and keep them going to all of them so they can get like the full resources.
Mhm.
Do you have like other things like that that you put into place? Like, do they like sign something,
Oh
or how do
yeah,
you?
we have a situation. If we refer you to a service, we have you sign a contract that you will adhere to this. In regards to the parent training, we're lax. We don't have them sign anything. We just say you can come or not come, but it's up to you. If you don't come, you'll miss out. And we send them like a graduation kit with the
Mhm.
certificate with their name on it saying they completed. We give them all kinds of swag and stuff, and I mail it to them. And so when they get that piece of mail, it's like they hit the lottery. You should go on the internet. You'll see like people taking pictures. I got my you like, those commercials for that online university. It's like, ah,
yes,
Having
that's
the
great. That's the
award,
reaction you
yeah.
want.
yeah, right.
Yeah, and love that like user experience, like having this thing at the end and the completion, and how important that is, and how like rewarding that is for them.
Mhm.
Um, that's so important. So can you give us a few specific ways that listeners can support the Color of Autism?
Absolutely. They can go to thecolorofautism.org. They can support us through our donation button there, but they can also take a look around and see what we do.
Yeah,
And if they're interested in enrolling in some of our programs, there's hyperlinks on the pages where you can sign up. We're still enrolling for our one-to-one program, and that's the program with law enforcement and young adults. And you can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, where it's pretty dormant on Twitter because Twitter is like really kind of rough place to be some days. So,
yes.
but we're on every social media medium.
Awesome. We will make sure to link that in the show notes so that people have an easy way to get over there and connect with you and follow you and continue to see all these excellent things that you're doing. Thank you again, Camille, for taking the time to share with us today. We're really, really excited to be able to learn more about the Color of Autism Foundation, and we appreciate all the gems of advice that you are giving to our listeners. That's really, really helpful.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And I'm going to send you all some links to the one place that I reference. And I'm also going to send you a link to my puppy.
Oh, please do. Yes,
Yes,
I'm excited
we
about
want
the
to see
puppy.
Yes. So Michelle, like some of the takeaways for me that from Camille were support nonprofits that are existing first. See, like if you can get involved with what they're doing before you start a nonprofit. And I loved that it's a completely new term for me, service deserts. That these places where these resources are just not available, and being aware of where those places are. Michelle, did you have other takeaways from today's episode?
I'm really, really excited about the programs the Color of Autism is doing, the one-on-one program with law enforcement. And I think supporting that is so important, because we know how high priority it is for law enforcement to be able to recognize people with autism spectrum disorders as they approach them. We know that there's been there's been killings, and it's been very, very tragic, and it, you know, no family should have to sit at home and worry that their son or daughter is going to have to go through that. So I really, really am excited about that program for you. I think it's an incredible way to approach it, and that you're doing an amazing job, Camille.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that recognition. And again, I can't thank you enough for inviting me. And I'm glad my friend Summer back here is quiet.
Yeah.
So, as you guys know, we are featuring the Color of Autism all month long for April. It is Autism Awareness Month, and we would like to encourage you to learn more about autism and the different ways it affects different demographics of people, like people of color. And please share what you've learned in today's episode. Share with everybody that you know more about autism. We do know that education is the most powerful tool to empowering people and breaking down these barriers. Our hype up message for today is that your good cause matters. The effort that you are able to contribute with the time that is available to you is enough. Keep moving forward and focus on the next right thing. And remember, no matter how important your cause is, you, your family, and the quality of your life also matters just as much. Cut out what you need to. Go back to just the basics and make choices as if it's going to work out for the best. All right, Michelle.
Among Lionhearts is a socially conscious marketing agency where we specialize in social media management and influencer marketing for the unique needs of social enterprises and charities. Let our team of experts manage your social media workload for you so you can get back to doing more good. Remember that every small act of courage, no matter how small, is not actually small at all. You, my dear, are standing among the Lionhearts. Thank you so much for joining us.